Hey folks, Chris from Maple Street Guitars in Atlanta, Georgia here, and now that the holiday season is in full swing, we figured we'd take a little bit of time and take a look at two of our favorite budget-friendly amps. Now these are amps that we recommend to players young and old on a near daily basis, but I don't think we really took some time to dive into them and take a listen to how they sound on our channel. So we'll be featuring the Boss Katana Mark II, not to be confused with the Mark I. This is the latest from them. And on my other side, I have the the Fender Mustang LT25, another great amp. So, compared to the amps that I started with when I was, a wee lad, when I started playing guitar 20 years ago, it's really crazy to me to look on these modern products and see, how light years better they are compared to what I started with. I truly believe if I had had amps like these when I started, I would have taken over the world by now. But alas, I'm still living the dream here at Maple Street. So we're going to take a listen to both of these amps, as well as go over some of the features and things that set them apart and why they strike us as such great amplifiers. So firstly, things that these two amps have in common. They're both smaller amps, so ones that you can fit into a smaller apartment, bedroom, that sort of thing, without taking up too much room. They're nowhere near the size of a half stack or full stack, but you can still get some pretty good power and wattage out of them. So the LT25 comes in at 25 watts. This is the smaller of the two, certainly smaller speaker, smaller enclosure, all that kind of stuff, so maybe better suited for bedroom playing and such, whereas the Boss Katana here is a 50-watt amp, and this has one of our favorite features, which is a power control that enables us to dial in the exact wattage of the amp, but more on that later. So both are single channel kind of amps, but they feature presets, so you can save a number of sounds that you may really like, so you can dial them up or recall them very easily, which is certainly a step beyond what I had in my days of single channel kind of practice amps and such. Both have a number of amplifier styles and effects built into them, so you don't need to worry about adding additional effects on a pedal board. You do have everything right at your disposal. And one of the things that I love about both is, and this is a phrase that I use in the store a lot, so they can both be as simple or as complicated as you want them to be. Now what I mean by that is they have easy to use controls on the panels. In the instance of the LT25, you have lots of presets and stuff, so you can just stick to those presets, or you can dial them in with really, really fine detail. With the Boss, there's an editor for your computer. There's a really fancy menu, sub-menu system in the LT25, so it's insane really to the degree that you can tailor these tones to really dial in exactly what you're looking for, stuff that you see in far more expensive products, stuff like the Line 6 Helix, Fractal, Axe effects. Of course, these aren't quite as authentic as those can be, but it's really, to me, kind of shocking to see just how many of those kinds of details and stuff that you would find on some of these more expensive and fancier products, how much of that is retained in amps like these. So now let's take a look first at the Mustang LT25. So as I mentioned, this has a number of presets, many that are already factory installed, and those you can tweak to your heart's content, and there are also a number that are user-defined, that are blank, that you can do whatever you want with. And I think, in terms of the number of sounds that you have in here, it's really, really staggering. You also have features such as an auxiliary input if you want to plug in some kind of music playback source. There's also a headphone jack, which is, of course, always welcome when playing at home or in the bedroom, especially when folks are trying to sleep. You have a foot switch control to change some channels and stuff, but otherwise, it's a really straightforward amp until you dig into some of those sub-menus, and when you do that, the possibilities are really endless. So for our demo of the LT25, we're going to take a listen to 3 of the many presets that this amp offers. Preset number 1, which is Fender Clean, preset number 2, which is Silky Solo, and then preset number 5, which is called Dreamy. And for all of the demos today of the Mustang and the Katana, I'm going to use a trusty Fender Player Series Stratocaster. Now moving over to the Katana, as opposed to having straight up models of existing amplifiers and effects like the Mustang LT25, this uses a amplifier system that has a number of different sounds: acoustic, clean, crunch, lead, and brown, which enable you to dial in all the way from the most pristine sound to your Eddie Van Halen inspired, super sustaining, super saturated distortion sounds. And you also have a variation on each of those, so you have double that, essentially 10 amp styles at your fingertips, really. Then you have a 3-band EQ section, and then it's super powerful effects section. So with this amp, if you plug it in, you have access to, I believe, over 60 effects that you can plug into each channel, and you can do it so that all of your presets have a different loadout of different effects, which is really, really bonkers. But you essentially have 5 different effects that you can run simultaneously, and in each of those categories you have 3 different options that you can choose from. So you have a booster effect, which is typically overdrives and fuzzes. You have a modulation section where you could put your phasers and chorus. You have an FX section, which includes lots of the modulation effects, but also things such as an octaver, an envelope filter, and then delays and reverb. So you can really dial in a crazy sound on here if you like, or keep things nice and subtle. And then lastly, but certainly not least, one of our favorite features is the power section, where you're able to control the wattage of the amplifier. So if you're playing at home, you want to keep things quiet, you can dial it into 1/2 watt, which is awesome. But if you find yourself playing with some other people, you can turn it up to 25 watts to get a little bit more power, a little bit more clean headroom. Or if you find yourself in a situation where you're playing with a band, maybe you have a drummer that you need to compete with, you can turn it all the way up to 50 watts. And this amp, I think if you have it set to 50 watts, maybe pop it up on a stand or chair, I think it should be able to compete in a lot of situations. So it's really great having the ability to rein in that volume if you need it, but also to really push the amp and get a lot out of it if that's what you need as well. And above all things, it sounds great too. So that does it for our look at our 2 favorite budget-friendly amps here at Maple Street Guitars. And let us know in the comments below, are you a user of either of these amps? Maybe using them in even some professional kind of context? Are you playing these at home? Do you have another practice amp that you like more? Be sure to let us know. And of course, follow us online and on the social media at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And of course, come by and see us sometime here in Atlanta, Georgia. So until next time, I'm Chris from Maple Street Guitars. Cheers and happy holidays.